We're back in the tackle room, and today we're talking about why you have such a hard time trying to catch fish in the summer, and what can we do to fix that. Stick around, you don't want to miss this one.
Well, that's interesting. That bug right there. It floated up from the bottom. I just watched it. I got him. On the swim bait. He was right here at the boat too. Yeah. Ooh. Oh, where are you going? Oh, he spit it out. He spit it out and he got away. Ah.
Nice.
I mean, it counts. I had my hand all over him, but still, that's kind of funny.
And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing, and today we're talking about fishing in those hot summer months and why it can be so arduous. Why a lot of times it's the most difficult fishing throughout the entire year, and it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Bass are cold-blooded. That water is really warm right now. Bass derive their energy from their surroundings, from their environment. They should be the most active right now that they are all year. It should be easy fishing, but it's not. Those bass, they're way past their post-spawn phase at this point for much of the country. They're transitioning to their summer homes where they're all schooled up, suspending, and a lot of times sitting on the bottom of that lake trying to find cool water. Okay, and this is the time of year when things like the thermocline and fall rate and bait selection, these are all things that are very hyper important. You know, fishing in the summer a lot of times is fishing on hard mode, when you've got the difficulty settings dialed way, way up, and you still want to go out there and catch fish. I know a lot of guys who just pack it in and they just wait for the fall transition for things to cool back down because they just don't want to deal with it. Well, me, I like fishing in the summer. It's, you know, it can be slower. You're not going to catch a whole bunch of fish as opposed to the spring or the fall. I mean, you can have great days. Don't get me wrong. You can still go out there and you can still have very, very productive days depending on the situation. And we're going to talk about some of those situations. But the first thing I want to talk about is bait selection. And I know a lot of you are already saying it. You're already thinking, you're saying, Lowbrow, I'm tired of hearing about a wacky rig or a NACO rig or a Waco rig or some type of worm. I don't want to drag a worm. I get it. A lot of guys want to go out there and they want to burn a crankbait. They want to burn a spinnerbait. They want to power fish. Unfortunately, now is not going to be the best time of year for that. For me, power fishing happens in the spring, in the pre-spawn, and in the fall, during the fall transition. For me, even here in the deep south, where it stays warm all year round, I only power fish in the spring and during the fall. Maybe a little bit in the winter, depending on what type of winter we're having, depending on if it's a warmer day or not. But during the summer, I promise you that I'm fishing slower now during the summer than I do at any other time of the year. But I'm still able to consistently get fish. I'm still going out there and rarely am I getting skunked. I went out to the lake today. The lake was packed. It was crowded. And the wife and I were on the little boat, just motoring around the little lake. And we still were able to catch a nice pile of fish with people looking at us like we were crazy. And invariably at the boat ramp, you always get the questions. What are you throwing? Well, today I threw a wacky rig. I threw a Waco rig. You know, I slowed things down. I threw a jerkbait for a little while, caught a fish on a jerkbait. That was nice. And I dragged a jig. I was dragging a jig along the bottom, caught a nice fish on that. But I always get the same response. I don't want to fish that way. Well, I want to fish how the fish are going to bite. It would be great to be able to just chuck and wind, chuck and wind, chuck and wind. Unfortunately, a lot of times that's not going to be a viable option. So we have to set those things to the side. A lot of times we're going to have to set those things to the side and slow things down. That doesn't mean we have to go uber super finesse. Just because you're not fishing a wacky rig doesn't mean that you can't slow things down or be effective. Case in point, topwater. Topwater has been exceptionally effective for me now, especially in the evening. If I'm able to go out in the evening, right as that sun is setting and the winds have calmed down and the lake has slick calm, right? Well, something like this Boy Howdy, and this is the prop version. I've also used the tail weighted version too. Something like this is exceptionally effective. Another topwater bait that's been doing exceptionally well for me is a head and torpedo. This is the baby torpedo. But again, this is very similar to a Devil's Horse or Boy Howdy or a spin rocket or any type of prop bait. You just kind of give these a subtle rip. Works great. I have been catching toads on these. Topwater, I've been catching the biggest fish all year on topwater, and I've been doing it mainly on prop baits and poppers. Or the Rico popper that I got from Hank over at Basket, he sent me this thing, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago, and I have caught toads with that thing. It is an amazing popper, easily the best one in my collection. So you can't turn down a topwater bite. They're always fun. They're always amazing. And right now, especially in the early evening and early in the morning, it's the best topwater bite all year, in my opinion. Now, another type of bait that I've been exceptionally successful on that isn't finesse is a chatterbait. Now, I've been slowing it down. I've been working it more like a jig than a chatterbait. I haven't really been cranking this real hard, but what I have been doing is ripping it up and letting it fall back down. You can see that I've got just a regular fluke as a trailer. And to me, a fluke is the best trailer for a chatterbait. It does not put drag on that blade and allows this blade to just go crazy in the water. I mean, it really, you get that erratic hunting action that really makes these work. So I do not put anything like a Kitech or a Rage Swimmer. I mean, don't get me wrong. A Kitech and a Rage Swimmer are great swim baits, just not for a chatterbait. Put a fluke on this back of this, and I'm telling you what, you will see huge differences in the amount of bites that you get. So the way that I'm working this, well, I rip it up, give it a couple cranks, and let it come back down. And then I'll let it sit for a second. And then I give it a good rip, give it a couple more cranks, just let it fall back down. And I might drag it, pull it up. I'm varying it. I'm varying that retrieve, but I'm not just doing crank, pause, crank, 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 pause. I'm really trying to alter it more than any other time of year. I'm really trying to get that bass to react to my bait. And, well, it's been working phenomenally. I've had some really nice chatterbait bites over the past couple weeks. I caught one that was 4.12 pounds, 4.12 pounds just the other day off that chatterbait. So I was really happy with that. So just because you're slowing things down, that doesn't mean finesse. And those are examples of that. Like I said, topwater, chatterbaits. You can even throw a spinnerbait very similarly. I'm working jigs in there, swim jigs especially. A swim jig works great, especially through the thick hydrilla, but it can do double duty. You can do so many things with a swim jig. Skip it up under a dock, swim it through the hydrilla, rip it like a jig, drag it like a jig, work it along riprap. I mean, it's an amazing tool. I've always called it the Swiss Army knife of your tackle box. And if you're not fishing a swim jig, well, quite frankly, you are missing out on bites. You need to make friends with a swim jig. So those are the types of baits that are working best for me, that are not finesse. Not everything has to be about finesse. And another type of bait that has been doing very, very well for me is, well, a jerk bait. A jerk bait is a year-round bite. This is a Yozuri, and this is the newest one in my collection. I just got this. I just started fishing this, and I love this thing. This thing rips so well through the water. Now, don't get me wrong. I fished my KVD jerk baits and the Berkeley Stunna and the Guggen Scout. Those are all great jerk baits, and I really like all of them. They all have their place. But for summertime jerk bait fishing that I'm ripping really fast without any pauses, this guy right here, it looks really, really great under the water. I don't know, there's something about it where it's almost like I can keep more slack in my line when I'm working this, which allows me to give it those pops. That's what I'm doing, is I'm popping the slack out of the line, but I'm not giving it any pauses. I'm pop, crank, pop, crank, pop, crank. And this thing, it just, I mean, it's almost crazy how much side-to-side action I'm getting out of this. So a jerk bait, this Yozuri is an amazing jerk bait. I've caught some really nice fish on it. And I think this was only $8, which for jerk bait, that's nothing. And this thing has got the weight transfer in it. I don't know how well you can hear that, but it's got the BB weight transfer system in it. This thing casts like a bullet. I can cast at a mile. And whenever you're fishing gin clear waters, well, that's essential. That's key. So, you know, a jerk bait is another bait you don't want to sleep on, especially during the summer.
There we go. There we go. Little bitty guy, but I got him. Yep. Little bitty guy. Little bitty. I don't know. Just shy of a pound. Not even. And that was on the old Yozuri jerkbait. So. Alright, thank you, little buddy. Get over here. Yay! Alright. Do it again.
Alright, now that we've got the baits out of the way, what are we talking about how to use them? What are the things that I'm looking for? Well, when it comes to weather patterns, right, a lot of times in the summertime, it's going to be bluebird skies, sunny days, calm winds. And for a lot of the country, that's just how the summer sets up most of the time. So those types of days, I actually really like because, as I said in a previous video, why I prefer to fish on sunny days is because you've got hard defined shade lines, right? Bass love hard edges, whether it's a shade line, whether it's a grass edge, whether it's riprap, whether it's a mud line in the water. Bass love hard edges. So you've got that brush line and you've got a shade line going along that brush line. You know those bass are stacked up shallow. I don't need electronics. I can go out there and I can fish that, and I know that there's going to be bass there. And lo and behold, I'm catching bass. Now, am I catching 100 bass a day? No, but in 4 or 5 hours, I can catch 10 or 12 bass, which I'm happy with, especially as that day gets a little bit rougher, right? As there's more boating traffic out there, as there's more competition for those bites, and I'm still able to get that 10 or 12 bites, and that's all we can really hope for. The job that we have when we're on the water is to try to create as many bites as we can, and we do the best that we can to create those bites. And knowing the situation and knowing where those bass are stacking up, that is one of the key ways to doing it. So for sunny days, head for a shade line. Look for the deepest shade line that you can find, and if there's some flooded brush or if there's some docks or whatever, try casting in the farthest back pockets of those places that you can get. And I'm telling you that there's bass in there. I'm telling you that there's fish in there. Again, like I said, pay attention to the weather, right? That's going to be one of the key factors. Wind direction, wind amount. Sunny days and wind, well, you're going to be fishing flooded brush, but you're not going to be doing it with a weightless wacky rig. You're going to have something that's a little bit heavier. However, again, that's something else that would leads into fall rate. How fast that bait is falling down is so monumentally huge. It's something that anglers, they take it for granted. They tie on the heaviest thing that they can. It goes rocketing down right by those bass, and they don't even give it a second look. And then you put a wacky rig on it, and it just goes right by their face, and they're looking at it, boom, and they pass. You've got to find out what the fall rate is that those bass are going to key off on. So, again, let's put it all together, right? You've got the right bait, you've got the right area, and you've got the right fall rate. That's the three main things that are going to get you bites in the summer. Sure, there are other things such as fishing pressure and bait color, but those to me are not as important because I can work around those things. Right now, fall rate is going to be more important than your color. If you can get the right fall rate dialed in, well, you're going to get bites. And once you get that dialed in, You can adjust your color as need be, depending on how well the fish are grabbing it. And that's something that's been working very well for me. So to put everything together, summer does not have to be such an arduous time to fish. It can actually be one of the easiest times to fish if you just slow down and think about it. You don't have to fish super slow, and you don't have to wait for cloudy skies. So there you have it, fishing in the hot summer months. Well, you're going to know where they're at, so having to track them down is going to be a lot easier now than any other time of the year. So that just leaves figuring out what they want and how they want it. And once you get that dialed in, well, then the fishing becomes a lot easier. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.